conversation.
Yes, thanks you, John. John, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to dominate the conversation, but
Go.
yeah.
Go for it. If we're going to lose you, we might as well hear your wisdom. Go for it.
Okay, all right. First of all, thanks, Ivan and Craig, for inviting me today. Much appreciated. In terms of who I am, my business is Linfield Partners. We focus on the SME market in Australia, anything from CEO mentoring, succession plans, all the way through capital raising. Interestingly, the feedback, Ivan, I give the group is we have been busier in the last 3 months than I have in 15 years. It's amazing what's actually going on in the market out there at the moment in Australia. So that's the reason why I'm leaving shortly, because I've got a brand new client who's looking for mentoring and growth. And so I think today's conversation, look, only reinforces in my mind that teams, you can put it in Indigenous language, you can put it in Kalahari desert language, but at the end of the day, the teamwork question is the make or break, I think, for most successful organizations. And so the big picture is you've got to be an inclusive leader. For me, you've got to understand diversity, the strengths of it. I would caution people in business that they've got to remember what their purpose is. I think it's important to have all of the factors around inclusive leadership. But if you actually lose the reason why you're in business in the first place, or even in a community, then you tend to go down maybe a less successful path. Right now, I've got a very strong focus on aged care and disability, just having recently joined the board of a mid-sized disability organisation. But there's tremendous opportunities in both of those sectors. And of course, the government is recognising that with the billions of dollars that have been thrown into it as well. So that's all I really want to say, Michael. But I appreciate everybody, and the contributions today.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Love it. And yeah, totally tend to sign my name to this idea that at the end of the day, it's the teamwork that makes the organization. Thank you. Who wants to go next, please? So 1 or 2 nuggets really stand out. What you will add to your territory? What you will add to your map?
Things I really noticed was the amount of competition between tribes within business. So if we looked at the tribe of procurement, the tribe of sales, the tribe of IT, I think there's a way of taking that language on the map and presenting it in a different way for people to understand both their feathers and their swamps. And I found that really interesting to allow people within an organisation to see what they're like as individual beings as part of the collective. And even though I'm a really shocking drawer, I'm quite interested to see how I could draw that up as a concept with some of the clients I work with.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan. Craig.
Seeing the different maps within an organization and how they see enemy internally. I mean, most people's maps are 80% internal. It's quite extraordinary. I mean, I once had 10 people explain maps, and it wasn't until the 9th person that the word customer was mentioned. It's just extraordinary. Anyway, sorry to...
That's my experience too. That's my experience as well. It's very rarely the customer.
Yeah, it's that's why it's just as a waste. I mean, they wouldn't survive in the bush for 10 minutes with that attitude.
Thank you, Anthony. And anytime you want to interject, please do. Craig.
Firstly, thank you very much, Anthony. It was actually really enjoyable hearing of your past and your future exploits. guess it was very interesting for me to see it in pictures, because I'm very much a visual person. So I paint these pictures in my head as opposed to being someone that would look at things on paper. If I can't visualize it, then I get lost. So the concept of having a map is actually resonates quite well with me. I think the key things that I took away there is that the way that you really plotted the course, looking at the past, the present, the future, and giving that true sense of one's identity and understanding, I guess, what your own culture is and the culture that you actually want to build, and really pulling them all together in a way that you can actually see it. So yeah, I thought that was quite empowering. So I'd certainly look at trying to upskill in that space myself, because it resonated. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. It's also great for diversity and inclusion, because people who wouldn't normally put their hand up, what they draw on a map is quite extraordinary in the insights. So new people coming on, etc. It's fabulous for getting insights for people.
Look, it's a very sticky topic, D&I at the moment. Some
really resonates with me. It is such a departure from, I've worked in a lot of US companies that are very hierarchical, and it is not about being together as one. And one of the most exciting things for me was when I returned to Australia 7 or 8 years ago, for 7 years, and then I went to Singapore again. That sense of everybody is equal in this team, and my opinion counts whether I'm at the bottom of the organization or the top, and how much more you get when an organization feels that they're free to speak and even to tell the boss off, because the boss isn't right, which is where in America I was always led to believe after I'd made a mistake, my directors would
for everybody else that sees that fella. So I don't know what everybody else got from it, but that is what I got from it.
Yeah, I love that idea.
I like that, Craig.
I really do. Rob Ellis, lovely to see you here. Tell me, what's your takeaway? What did you think of the presentation, and how would you apply that to yourself?
I'd like to take a slightly different angle, in that, having had a very sort of long career in different corporate environments, both in the UK and Australia, it just makes you wonder, I suppose, how antiquated some of the processes were that I've certainly lived through, as regards to the way corporates operate. I now do my own thing, and I suppose, looking back, it would be nice if this type of approach had been adopted, sort of 20, 30, 40 years ago, as regards to how you actually build a culture, what I think this is all about, how you build a culture within an organization to actually take it forward. That's what I got out of it, and how it could have been, how things could be so much better in organizations, certainly in the past, and maybe going forward as well. So does that make any sense?
It does, Rob. It absolutely does. And Stephen, I know that you took this personal journey at some stage in the past. How long has this mapping process been going, and when did you begin that journey?
Well, I began the journey in 2000 with Anthony on the Great Wall of China, and I used it for businesses pretty much exclusively for a good 10 years. It never crossed my mind to look at personal journeys, and then, like I say, I did mine. We did it with the soccer club. I've even encouraged my son to do it as well. So therefore, he's in his early 20s, to help him have some clarity and some thoughts about his map and where he wants to be and where he currently is. So it became a wider philosophy over time, and it started off on business, but the very first business implemented it in 2001.
Yeah. So it has been around for a while, but I think like everything, you know, you have leaders who are in their own little pockets of leadership, and the exposure is only as
depending on how large. I mean, Katie, maybe this wouldn't be relevant to you, but perhaps in an organization like IBM, for example, to create something like this would be very challenging. Having the dogs barking in the background here. Just a couple of minutes left. Shane, over to you. What did you take out of today?
Mute, Shane. You're on mute. You're on mute, Shane.
Shane, you're on mute. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Go. Yes, yep. I can hear you now.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, good. Yeah. Great stuff. This to me is nothing too new in the sense that I've always worked philosophy in my own personal space. So this is where to see this is great to see, and you know, coming from past corporate structures and so on, the DHLs, the Queensland Rails, we've all been in those organisations where, as you say, Prue, to move things forward is just so difficult. And really, I think you just have to lead from example with your own belief system and really work from there, because pushing the other is sometimes, you know, you're just going to
Everyone's coming back.
Welcome. We should all be back. Ivan, all back?
Yep, seem to be all back. And the beauty about it is there's still 37 of us on the call. So everyone's stayed. Just to see that the chat's still working. From 1 to 10, just put in the chat whether you got any value, whether there was any insights that you got from the actual think tank. Okay, it's working. Yep, I've got a couple of 11s there. I think it's all 10. Bill, over to you.
Ivan, amazing. Using technology to kind of get the pulse happening as we speak. The DNA of what we have here is amazing. Can I call out on, and it's going to be in random order, but each of the groups to bring your nuggets to the attention of everybody. I'm reminded that we have about 12 minutes to go. So 3-ish minutes each, please, everybody.
Okay,
and,
so Clive Smallman.
Yeah, Clive.
Everybody loves a volunteer, including me. I think that how I could summarise it, there was a lot of richness in what we had, and we were very fortunate we had Anthony in the room as well. But really, this idea of visualization of current situation, future situation, barriers, I think is how I would summarize a beautiful way of doing it. And as a geographer long since, that really appeals to me. And I also like the work of Zerubbabel, who's a philosopher, sociologist in the mapping space, mapping life, mapping time. And the other thing which came through from everybody is COVID as an opportunity rather than as a problem. I think in this idea of living with uncertainty and change. And I think it's just a great way to navigate it. I mean, how do you navigate through anything? You navigate through things with a map. And I'm not familiar with this word at all, not come across it previously. All the stuff I've read on leadership, I'm going to go away and find out as much as I possibly can.
and Clive's a professor of business at a university in Sydney, and yeah, so kudos to you, Anthony and team.
Yeah. Hey, Clive. Thank you for that, Clive. Brian, fine.
Hi. We had a really good group. Tony, Stephen, Hockey, John R, Nola, and Naomi. Tony made some interesting points. He talked about the fact that while there have been some exciting presentation components, common sense is central to the map, and it's great to see it all put together in a strategy. The human touch was key, having common goals, important. He loved leadership, leading from the front and sort of mopping the floor, and also talked about how Bruce Lee built from cherry picking all over different cultures and came up with his philosophy. So choosing the best from each culture. John talked about authenticity being important, and saying that was also before COVID. COVID has highlighted the good companies, the ones that have a good culture and constructive togetherness. Also loved mopping the floor comment. He is a fan of the egalitarian approach to sharing, and commented on how the bonuses always seem to be disproportionately given to the people at the top when the work is done disproportionately from the bottom. The tribe, he talked about doing it together and everyone being equal and free to speak. Stephen also added that in his history, territory mapping is unique, and so that's great. Nola, who has already spoken, just reaffirmed the need to connect with the community, to evolve from a mutual society. She talked about the fact that 85% of organizations think as a collective, and the leader should stand in the shadows, not sort of be that visible. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Can I call on you, Cass, to bring out your nuggets?
Definitely. Thank you, Bill. So in our group, we had Kate Whittleton, Rob Ellis, Shane, Katie Mills, Brew, Craig Saphin, and John Scott. I wish we had longer. We had such a great conversation. We didn't get to get through to everybody, but the takeouts really were actually one comment was Prue made a comment. It was quite a masculine approach, I guess, in how it was delivered, but it was really well received from everybody. I think a question that Katie actually put out was that she's working with highly technical, analytical people, and how do you actually take this method and see change in those analytical minds. And yeah, it was Kate spoke a little bit about she's an agent of change, and her personal map hasn't changed over all the years, which is fantastic. It's something to be very proud of. It's a very challenging way of thinking, and really, how do we kind of go and make change within those traditional type organizations? And we spoke a little bit about the importance, if you're in a flat structure, smaller organizations, you can build this map and see change throughout. But some of those larger organizations like IBM, for example, you maybe need to start internally with your own map, and then also going out to your wider team to create change, and then others will see that, and that flow of change will happen and occur across the board. So really, really great insights. We just needed some more time to get to unpack it all, but it was fantastic.
Thank you, Cass. That's some great takeouts there. Michael Batura.
Yeah, hi everyone. Again, I think probably everyone shared this experience that we would have loved a lot more time to kind of knuckle into it. But very quickly, John Scott also dropped into our group and mentioned this sense of that he always picks up that teamwork basically is the make or break of a successful organization, and that sort of came to him from listening in. Steve Barlow was talking about actually doing a map this morning for his own work and organization. So just this idea of going on a journey is actually a process, and trying to rework the map according to the insights that he got this morning from the talk, and the fact that it's really a dynamic form of narrative that he was going to sort of apply that sort of insight into the work that he was doing. Sridhar was talking about invisible versus visible leadership. So he gave the example of a startup that he's involved with, where he's actually one of the founders, and he suddenly saw how he's the invisible leadership, or that's the role that he would like to take, and that gives him the sense of empowering his employees to take more of a visible leadership role. Philip mentioned this idea of the sense of belonging, right? How to understand people up and down the organization. So quite often people are isolated. They don't get a sense of, who's doing what more than one or two level away from them, and how important it is to create that sense of community. Conrad again talked about this idea of not focusing on the hard visible leadership, and create and nurture invisible leadership, create participation. And for myself, I think the thing that really sort of was touched in me is this sense that even though we seem to be operating as, sort of very modern, sophisticated 21st century people, at the end of the day, our brains, our wiring, our nerve system, 100,000-year-old, and I feel we all walk around with to paraphrase Thomas Aquinas, we all walk around with a tribal and a wilderness-shaped holes in our heart, and how inevitably when we sort of look to that wisdom and to that background, really we're coming back to our roots and our sources, and there's a lot more wisdom inside in that sense that get evoked and triggered just by thinking the way that we were presented with this morning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. That was very evocative. Emma, would you unpack yours, please?
Sure. We had some lovely people in the room, including Stephen Brown, who gave part of the presentation. So I want to say thank you to you and the team again. And just giving some context around in that conversation, he's been mapping since 2000. So he used it for business initially, and now he's using it for personal, and that adopting a wider philosophy was the key that he gave to us. We also had Bill, our fearless leader, in the room, and he understands from the South African culture the hands to the ground and what we earned to hold the spear being key, and leadership being earned and then applied. Gina Yalmas, who's in personal transformation, understood the micro and the macro, and how much sharing and caring you do being something that you can make decisions around. I just loved, Emma Sydney, I loved the mapping that gives you a language that's unacknowledged in modern society to, access our internal landscape, and also gives us a way to articulate and share that journey and create a common landscape, which I thought was really powerful. Craig Keegan can see that there's a micro and macro part of you in every interaction that you have. And we talked about the giving of the feather, something that's value to you that you have earned, and then you give it to someone else who's earned it. There's such a symbology around this that I think can be missing, Rob Ellis was also popping into our group. So he was talking about his tenure, and how really, even though we're in a modern society, the way of thinking was antiquated. There's a lot of insight here to building a culture within an organisation that will move it forward into the future. Even though the knowledge is ancient, we're rediscovering it, if you like. So those were the key takeaways for our group, and it was a pleasure to hear it. I really got something really touching from this. Like, I felt like my heart changed as a result of hearing it. So it was very powerful for me, and I thank everybody who's in my group.
Thank you, Emma. I'm thinking I'm missing somebody, and could that person reveal themselves if I have?
Group 5.
Wayne Larkin.
Wayne,
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Wayne.
Not a problem. Yeah, we had a great group, Claire, Andrew, Alistair, Belena, and Dowson. And I'll just do, because it needs a bit of time, but I'll summarise it down, what we came across. Maps are basically critical, of course, to know where you've been, where you are, and where you are going. And everyone needs a map to basically navigate the future, and also have everyone on the team understand what the journey is and what they need to do with it. The other points, in summary, that was that everyone needs to be involved. Basically, you need multiple perspectives involved in that process, and everyone needs to become a leader as opposed to having managers. So have a much flatter model. So basically harnesses the energy of all people, and it's also in touch with the customers. And people must learn from their history, and also it needs a spiritual focus. Today we have very much a monetary focus, which is outside ourselves, and the focus needs to be more based on lessons learned, because history repeats itself going forward, and also focus on a higher purpose. So that was a summary from our group.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bill, if I may, just one thing that really stuck out for me is the alignment of what BBG is about with this mapping process is our 6 C's, which is connection, which is collaboration, which is contribution, which is continuity that will create competence and overall create this engaging, collaborative community. So that's the 6 C's that sort of resonated with me.
Thanks, Ivan. Well, folks, it's 10 o'clock. We're spot on time, and nothing like a meeting spending time together but ending on time.
Bill, if I may, if people can potentially stay afterwards, and if they want, share their individual insights, and I'll record that and potentially put that on social media. So those who want to stay.
Yep, that's a great invite, and let's do that for some of us.
And if anybody wants to ask any questions, I'm absolutely delighted to.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Just going right back to the beginning, Anthony, and I just wanted to just wrap up by saying what we have earned, and if I dare say learned, to win the spear, I guess is the takeout today. What have we actually learned, and how might we take it forward? In another phrase from you, timelessly on an odyssey. What a fantastic kind of revamp of where we come from. Nola, we're all earthlings at the end of the day. You speak so passionately about every living thing. We're all that. We have a wonderful world to protect and a planet to take forward. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to the cup of tea afterwards. But for those that have to go, thank you for making it today. And thank you to our speakers from around the world who've stayed up way beyond 12 in some instances. Thank you so much. And finally, Craig, for bringing together such a powerful cohort. Been magnificent. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. So we'll get straight into it. So Claire, Katie Mills, what was your insight? Or who's staying? Let's see who's staying. People are leaving, but those who want to stay can stay. Okay. Yeah, I think people are just leaving. Okay.
Give a bit of time.
Okay. These are the people who are staying. So, Stephen Brown, what was your insight of this process?
Well, I've always been a big advocate of it, I think, because it's a very human way of doing business as well. So therefore, somebody mentioned about the sharing, sort of both on a business level and on a personal level. And I find that very engaging. And my experience has been that, people from, the lowest ranks of a business all the way up to the top of the business, when they suddenly realize that in effect they're all sharing equally. Somebody mentioned earlier about people at the top always seem to get all of the rewards and the people that do the work don't. But when people realize that they're in a team and it is being shared fairly, then that's the actual sharing goes into the background because it's taken on trust that things are going to be done fairly. But what comes to the foreground then is people working together and giving commitment to each other and really working as part of a team. So I've seen it be a very powerful thing. We see it in sporting circles, and we know that on paper we can have the best team, but it's how that team actually performs together that makes the difference and can give the extra 10% as to whether you win a cup or a championship. But exactly the same happens in the work environment, and you can really harness that. And I think that's my take out there, how much you can harness.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Tony Jacobson, one of our founding members of BBG. Tony, you've always got a great insight. What did you think of today? And what was your takeout? You're on mute, Tony. Tony, you're on mute.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. I just wanted to say that I found today fascinating, and I just wanted to thank the speakers for such great insights, and of course to everybody else for their wonderful input. And you know, to me, this is true learning, stuff you couldn't learn in Harvard in 100 years, as I like to say. My major takeouts, I think, at a high level from this are to refocus my mind on some of those key things. Firstly, visualization. Each one of the, you know, our esteemed guest speakers, just by the very nature of using their maps and discussing visualization, reinforced how important the power of visualization is. You know, if you think of every sports person, they visualize everything. They visualize every turn in a racing car, every, you know, shot they hit with the golf ball. And, you know, that concept of visualization boils down to, you know, quantum physics and so many other things, which are the connectedness of the world and the planet, which is what was discussed from almost from a totally non-technological point of view. So I love the way all of those things tie in together. The other thing that I really struck home for me was the concept of safety. And I think that the biggest problem in you know, workplaces around the world today is there is no culture of safety. People are too scared of losing their jobs because they almost feel like technology placeholders. And it should be the complete opposite. You know, the leaders or the people at the top should be the ones who should be questioned the most and most often, and with no consequence to being questioned. And then finally, I just wanted to give, you know, I moved to Australia 20 years ago from South Africa, but I just wanted to give a small demonstration of true leadership. I don't think anyone can deny that the late, great Nelson Mandela is probably one of the greatest leaders of all time. And his father was the leader of their tribe. And whenever the men in those times used to have their weekly meeting, Madiba, as we passionately refer to him, once asked his father, you know, why do you always wait for all the other men to speak before you speak? And he said it's for two reasons. He said, number one, it's to show them all respect. He said, but number two, if I spoke first as the leader, then everybody else would say what they thought I would like to hear. So by remaining silent and allowing everybody else's voice to be heard, that's how I get the, you know, the real information. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Gina, what was your take?
Can I just add one thing to that, please? Sure. Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
And that is, in any mapping session, just as Tony was saying, we always have the leader show their map last. So it's always they show their map last, and it's often even done 2 or 3 hours later. So it's not as if they're influencing it. It's just showing, yes, I was thinking along the same lines. So sorry to intrude, but please continue.
Thank you for that.
Anthony, how many people work in your organization and do these maps? How do you like